She mistook a billionaire CEO for the airport chauffeur. But that mistake changed everything. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The hum of rolling suitcases and airport announcements blended into a restless rhythm inside John F. Kennedy International Airport. Beneath the bright glass ceiling, travelers hurried in every direction, faces half hidden behind coffee cups and boarding passes. Maya Collins adjusted the name card trembling in her hand and whispered to herself, "Cross, Ethan Cross, arrival gate 34. Her stomach tightened. She had been working as a temporary assistant for only 2 weeks, and today was her first solo assignment. Her worn flats squeaked against the polished floor as she moved through the crowd. The reflection in a large window stopped her for a second. Her blouse was clean but faded, her skirt slightly frayed at the hem, and the badge on her chest already losing its shine. "You can do this," she murmured. "Smile, be polite, no mistakes." At the baggage carousel, a tall man in a white shirt stood alone, scrolling through his phone. His sleeves were rolled neatly, his dark hair slightly disheveled from travel. Something about him looked calm, confident. Maya glanced down at the paper in her hand again and convinced herself he must be the driver she was supposed to meet. She hurried forward. "Excuse me," she said, breathless but professional. "Mr. Cross? The car is waiting outside." The man looked up, his blue eyes flickering with mild surprise. He opened his mouth as if to correct her, then hesitated. A faint smile curved his lips. "Of course," he replied simply, slipping the phone into his pocket. Relieved, Maya led the way toward the parking area. "I hope you do not mind carrying one of these," she said, nodding at the luggage trolley. Without complaint, he reached for the handle. She did not notice the discreet watch on his wrist, or the way people glanced twice as he passed. The wind outside was crisp, carrying the scent of jet fuel and morning coffee. Maya opened the rear door of the company sedan and gestured politely. "Please, sit in the back. We will head straight to the downtown hotel for the meeting schedule." The man paused, then quietly stepped aside. "Ladies first," he said. Maya blinked, confused but flattered, and slid into the passenger seat. As the car pulled away from the terminal, she checked her notes. "The client from Crosshair Holdings will arrive in an hour, so we will need to prepare the documents in the lobby before." She stopped when she noticed him watching her with faint amusement. "Something wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," he said, a hint of laughter in his tone. "I'm just curious how long you have been doing this job." "Not long," she admitted. "It is temporary. I am actually an artist, or at least trying to be. This job just helps pay rent." She laughed nervously. "Not very glamorous, I know." He smiled slightly. "I think it is honest. That counts for something." The conversation slipped into a comfortable silence. For a moment, Maya forgot her anxiety. She noticed his calm presence beside her, the steadiness in his voice. He did not speak like a driver at all, yet she was too busy reviewing her checklist to question it. When they reached the hotel entrance, she turned toward him. "Thank you for helping with the luggage. I really appreciate it." He nodded. "My pleasure, Miss Collins." Her brow furrowed. "How did you know my name?" He only smiled again, opened the trunk, and handed her the sketchbook that had fallen from her tote. "You left this behind." "Oh, thank you," she said, embarrassed. "I draw sometimes, just for fun." "I am sure it is more than that," he replied. His voice held a quiet certainty that unsettled her. Maya stood by the car, clutching the sketchbook to her chest as he disappeared through the revolving doors. The wind tousled her hair, carrying the faint echo of his calm baritone. Something about the encounter lingered a strange warmth, a question she could not yet name. Inside the hotel, her phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen. "Where are you? Ethan Cross just landed. Please be ready at the gate." Her heart stopped. She looked up at the closed doors where the man had vanished. If that was not the driver, then who had she just ordered around? The rain started that evening, thin and steady, painting silver streaks against Maya's small apartment window in Queens. She sat at a wobbly wooden table, a half-empty mug of instant coffee beside her, sketchbook open but untouched. The smell of wet concrete and tired air drifted in through the cracked glass. The city outside felt too large, too loud, and she felt too small inside it. Her phone screen lit up with the company chat. A string of messages scrolled by her coworkers laughing about the driver mix-up from the afternoon. Maya's chest tightened. They did not know the truth, of course, but she could imagine their smirks if they found out she had mistaken a billionaire CEO for a chauffeur. She closed the screen quickly and pressed her palms to her face. Her mother's photograph sat propped on the windowsill, framed by a dollar store frame. Maya whispered, "I am trying, Mom. I really am." After her mother passed away the previous spring, Maya had promised herself she would not let grief swallow her dream. She had finished art school, but the student loans were heavy, and the rent had gone up again. The small administrative job at Crosshair Holdings was supposed to be temporary, just enough to buy supplies, to keep her afloat until she could submit her portfolio to a real gallery. But now, after the confusion at the airport, she feared she might lose even that. The rain grew harder. She turned to a new page in her sketchbook. Her pencil moved hesitantly at first, then with focus. She began to draw the reflection of the man from earlier, the faint smile, the calm eyes. She added the curve of the car door, the glint of light on the windshield. It felt foolish, but for some reason, drawing steadied her breathing. A knock startled her. She opened the door to find her landlord, Mr. Alvarez, holding a damp envelope. "Rent reminder, Miss Collins. You are 2 weeks behind again." "I know," she said softly. "I will have it by Friday." He sighed, kind but weary. "I like you, Maya, but I cannot keep waiting. Bills are bills." "I understand. Friday," she repeated. When he left, she leaned against the door, her pulse pounding. She whispered, "You will figure it out. You always do." The next morning, she caught the early subway, clutching her sketchbook tight against her chest. The Crosshair lobby gleamed like a cathedral of glass and steel. Men and women in tailored suits moved briskly past the security gates. Maya swiped her badge, keeping her eyes down. Inside the elevator, her friend and coworker, Lily Tran, gave her a sympathetic smile. "Rough night?" "Just thinking too much," Maya said. "You mean about the airport thing?" "Forget it, nobody cares. Everyone messes up." Maya forced a smile. "Sure." But she knew it was not that simple. The memory of the man's eyes, kind yet unreadable, kept replaying in her head. When she reached her cubicle, she found a note on her desk. "Meeting rescheduled. Prepare project files for review. Executive suite, 10th floor." Her stomach dropped. That was where the CEO's office was. As she arranged the folders, her sketchbook slipped from her bag and landed open. She froze. The drawing from last night stared back at her, the same face, the same eyes. She quickly closed it, cheeks burning. "Get a grip, Maya," she muttered. "He probably forgot you exist." The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. She stepped out onto the 10th floor, where the air smelled faintly of cedar and polished marble. The walls were lined with photographs of airplanes and clouds, a gallery of ambition. Through the glass wall of the executive office, she saw him, Ethan Cross, standing near the window, phone to his ear. Sunlight touched his profile, the same calm composure as before. Maya's heart stuttered. He looked exactly as he had at the airport, except now the world around him confirmed who he truly was. The billionaire CEO she had ordered to carry her luggage. Her instinct screamed to turn back, to hide. But the receptionist had already waved her forward. She entered quietly, keeping her eyes on the folders. "Sir, these are the updated project files." Ethan ended his call, turning toward her. "Thank you, Miss Collins." The sound of her name again, the same gentle tone, made her look up despite herself. He smiled slightly. "You made it back in one piece." She swallowed hard. I did not realize who you were yesterday. I am so sorry." "No apology needed," he said. "It was the most refreshing mistake I have had all week." "Oh." His words, light but sincere, caught her off guard. She nodded awkwardly and hurried out, the echo of his voice chasing her down the hall. Back at her desk, she exhaled shakily. Her pulse still raced, half from embarrassment, half from something she did not yet understand. She opened her sketchbook again and added one more line to the drawing, soft, uncertain, like the beginning of something she could not name. Outside the glass tower, the clouds thinned, and a slice of morning light spread over the city. It felt, for the first time in weeks, like hope. That weekend, the city softened under a pale morning light. Maya sat by the narrow window of a coffee shop a few blocks from her apartment. The steam from her cup curled in the air as she flipped through her sketchbook. Between the pages, her pencil marks told quiet stories, street corners, stray dogs. The skyline reflected on puddles, yet one drawing stood out. It was the man from the airport, Ethan Cross. She sighed and closed the book. "You are losing focus," she whispered to herself. The art fair submission deadline was in 3 weeks, but her hands had been trembling too much lately to draw anything new. Bills piled up, hours stretched longer, and her dreams felt like they were slipping further away. When she returned to the office on Monday, the world of glass and efficiency swallowed her again. Emails, phone calls, spreadsheets. It was a rhythm without color. Yet that morning, a small envelope waited on her desk. Inside was a single note written in clean handwriting. "Keep creating. Inspiration has a strange way of finding us." There was no signature. Maya looked around, confused. Lily raised an eyebrow. "Secret admirer? Probably just a joke," Maya said quickly, tucking the note into her sketchbook. Still, warmth spread through her chest, light but steady. Later that day, she was asked to deliver financial reports to the 10th floor. Her steps were slower this time. She rehearsed what to say, how to sound calm. When she entered the office, Ethan was reviewing a digital presentation. He looked up with the same composed smile. "Miss Collins, you are right on time. Here are the reports you requested, Mr. Cross." He accepted the folder, then glanced at the sketchbook under her arm. "You draw." Her cheeks flushed. "Just a hobby." "Oh, He leaned back slightly. "I saw a few of your sketches. They were left in the car that day. You have an eye for light." Her breath caught. "You saw them?" "I did," he said. "And I think you should keep going. Most people see the world, but few actually look." The compliment left her speechless. No one in this building had ever spoken to her like that, not as a subordinate, but as a person. When she left his office, the city outside looked different, sharper, brighter. She found herself stopping to photograph reflections on car windows, the way sunlight hit the steel towers. That night, she filled 3 new pages in her sketchbook. A week later, an internal memo announced a company art showcase titled Vision and Flight. Employees were invited to submit creative work representing freedom and innovation. Lily nudged her at lunch. "You have to join. You are practically the definition of both." Maya laughed nervously. "Please, they would never pick mine." But that night, she stayed up late, working. She painted the scene from the airport, the crowd, the lights, the man she thought was a driver helping her with luggage. It was a strange mixture of embarrassment and gratitude, but somehow it felt honest. She submitted it anonymously under the title, The Reflection Between Departures. Days passed, and no one mentioned it. Then, one morning, an announcement filled the lobby screens. Finalists will be presented at the Crossair Charity Gala this Friday. Maya froze when she saw her painting on the list. She laughed softly, half in disbelief. "You did it, Mom," she whispered to the photo in her phone case. "You really did it." She did not notice Ethan standing by the mezzanine, watching her reaction from above, a faint smile crossing his face. In his hand was the same notepaper, the twin of the one she had found. On it was written the same phrase, "Inspiration has a strange way of finding us." Friday arrived with skies the color of polished silver. The Crossair Charity Gala was the company's most anticipated event of the year, a place where executives, partners, and investors gathered under chandeliers to celebrate innovation and success. For most employees, it was a night to network. For Maya, it felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. She stood in her small apartment, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her friend Lily had lent her a simple navy dress and a pair of heels that were half a size too big. She twisted her hair into a loose knot and applied a thin line of eyeliner with trembling hands. "You are not a fraud," she whispered to her reflection. "You earned that spot." By the time she arrived at the downtown ballroom, the lobby shimmered with gold and glass. The sound of violins and soft laughter filled the air. Waiters glided past with trays of champagne. Maya clutched her invitation and followed the crowd inside, trying not to trip on the unfamiliar heels. At the far end of the grand hall, her painting hung among a dozen others. The lights above it cast a warm glow over the canvas, the reflection between departures. Seeing it displayed publicly stole her breath away. She moved closer, noticing small details she had forgotten. She painted the faint curve of a smile, the blur of light over his shoulder. A voice beside her said, "It captures something rare." She turned, and there he was. Ethan Cross, dressed in a dark suit, calm and effortlessly elegant. For a heartbeat, everything around them faded: the crowd, the music, the noise. "I did not expect you to be here," she said quietly. "I never miss the art showcase," he replied. "Especially not this one." "Oh," she felt the heat rise in her cheeks. "I never meant for anyone important to see it." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that is why it feels real." Before she could answer, the host's voice echoed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, the visionary behind Crosshair Holdings, Mr. Ethan Cross." Maya froze. The applause thundered around her. Ethan stepped toward the stage, his expression unreadable. As he walked past, he gave her a brief glance, a mixture of apology and something deeper she could not yet define. Her mind reeled. Guest of honor. Visionary. Ethan Cross. The truth struck like lightning. The man she had mistaken for a driver at the airport, the one who carried her luggage and listened to her stories, was not a kind stranger. He was the billionaire CEO whose name everyone in the room knew. She felt the ground tilt beneath her. The applause blurred into a dull roar. Every moment they had shared now shimmered with new meaning, and she did not know what was real anymore. When the speech ended, she slipped out into the balcony for air. The city stretched below, glittering and endless. She pressed her hands to the railing, her heart hammering. Behind her, footsteps approached. "Maya," Ethan said softly, "I was hoping to explain before you found out this way." She turned to him, eyes bright with hurt. "Explain what? That you let me treat you like a driver for your own amusement?" "It was never a game," he said. "I wanted to see the world without titles, without people rehearsing every word around me. You were the first person who spoke to me like I was human." "That is easy to say when you have everything," she snapped. "For me, mistakes have consequences." The silence between them was sharp. The wind carried the faint sound of traffic below. Ethan's voice lowered. "I did not mean to hurt you. I only wanted to understand what it felt like to be ordinary again." Maya stepped back. "You are not ordinary, Mr. Cross, and neither am I your experiment." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Inside, the orchestra swelled to a bright, polished tune, but she heard only the echo of her own breath as she pushed through the doors and disappeared into the night. The following morning, the rain had returned. It traced slow paths down the windows of the Crosshair headquarters, blurring the skyline into shades of gray. Maya sat at her desk, eyes fixed on the computer screen but mind miles away. The gala replayed in her head again and again, the crowd's applause, his voice on the stage, the weight of her own disbelief. Her phone buzzed with a message from Lily. "You all right? Everyone's talking about last night." She silenced the phone. She had not told anyone what had really happened on the balcony. The humiliation clung to her like static. Every time she thought of Ethan's face, his calmness, his attempt to explain, her chest tightened. At noon, her supervisor called her name. "Maya, Mr. Cross requested you deliver the quarterly report to his office." She froze. "Now?" "Yes, he asked specifically for you." The room tilted slightly. For a moment, she considered pretending to be sick, to leave early, to run. But then she remembered her rent, her promise to her mother, and her pride. She gathered the folder, smoothed her skirt, and stepped into the elevator. When the doors opened on the 10th floor, she found his assistant waiting. "He is in the conference room." The glass door swung open, revealing Ethan seated at the end of a long table. Papers were spread before him, untouched. He looked up as she entered. "Miss Collins," he said quietly, "thank you for coming." She placed the folder on the table. "Here is the report you asked for. If there is nothing else, I will go." "Maya, please sit down," he said. His voice was steady, but there was something softer underneath. She hesitated, then sat opposite him. "I owe you an apology," he began. "The night we met, I should have corrected you. But for the first time in years, someone treated me like a person instead of a headline. I did not want that moment to end." Maya stared at the polished surface of the table. "You could have told me sooner. Instead, you let me stand in front of 100 people feeling like a fool." His jaw tightened. "You have every right to be angry. I will not make excuses. But I want you to know that the respect I have for your talent and your heart is real." She looked up, meeting his eyes. They were tired, but honest. "Respect does not erase what happened," she said. "You live in a world where mistakes can be managed with money. I do not." Ethan exhaled slowly. "You are right, and that is why I want to offer you something that cannot be bought." Before she could respond, he opened a folder and slid a document toward her. "Crosshair Foundation is starting a new program to support young artists. I want you to lead it." She blinked, startled. "You want me to work for you?" "After all this, I want you to work with me," he corrected gently. "You have a perspective that this company needs, one that sees beauty in imperfection." Maya's throat tightened. "You are trying to fix what you broke." "Maybe," he admitted. "Or maybe I am trying to prove that something good can still come from a mistake." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the city filled the silence between them. Finally, she stood, gathering her sketchbook from the edge of the table. "I will think about it," she said. He nodded. "That is all I ask." As she left the room, Ethan looked down at the open page of her sketchbook she had forgotten to close. It was a drawing of light breaking through clouds, simple, unfinished, but alive. Maya walked out into the rain without an umbrella. The cool drops hit her face, washing away the last of last night's tears. For the first time since the gala, she breathed deeply. Maybe, she thought, mistakes are just unplanned beginnings. A full week passed before Maya made her decision. Each night she returned to her small apartment, her mind replaying Ethan's words, his offer, and the look in his eyes when he said he wanted to work with her. Trust was not easy to rebuild, but the part of her that still believed in second chances whispered that maybe growth sometimes began where pain once lived. On Monday morning, she walked into Crosshair headquarters again, this time not as an assistant but as the new coordinator of the company's Art and Flight initiative. The position was temporary, a 3-month pilot program, but it was enough to prove herself. When she entered the small creative wing that had been cleared for her project, she found blank canvases, bright light, and a handwritten note on the desk. It read, "Welcome home." Ethan appeared in the doorway. He wore no suit jacket, his sleeves rolled to the elbows. "You came," he said quietly. "I came to work," she replied. "Do not make this more than it is." He smiled, accepting the boundary. Fair enough. The days that followed were a blur of effort and quiet determination. Maya gathered a small team of interns and artists from local colleges. They created murals, inspired by air travel motion, distance, connection. Every afternoon, Ethan stopped by to check their progress, never interfering, simply watching. Sometimes he brought coffee, sometimes he said nothing at all. His silence no longer felt condescending. It felt steady. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Maya stayed behind to finish a piece alone. The office was quiet except for the hum of the city beyond the glass walls. She stood on a small ladder, painting the curve of a silver wing that stretched across the wall. Her hair was tied loosely, her sleeves rolled, her face streaked with color. Behind her, a voice said, "You missed a spot." She turned, startled to find Ethan holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you left hours ago," she said. "I did, but the storm is getting worse. Thought you could use this." He handed her the cup, and for a moment their fingers brushed. A flicker of warmth moved through her chest. They stood side by side, watching the mural take shape. "You know," he said, "when I first started this company, I thought success was measured in altitude. Higher, faster, farther. But lately I think it is about connection, how many people you can lift with you." Maya looked at him, studying his profile in the fading light. "That sounds like something you actually believe." "I do," he said, "because someone reminded me that humility is not weakness, it is clarity." She did not answer, but her silence was not cold this time. She picked up her brush again. "Then help me finish this wing," she said. It needs both of us. Ethan hesitated, then smiled and rolled up his sleeves farther. You are the artist. I take orders. Oh. Their laughter echoed softly in the empty room. By the time they stepped back, the mural was complete, a vast pair of wings stretching across the wall, catching the last orange light of dusk. Maya lowered her brush, breathless. It is done. Ethan nodded, his gaze steady. It is beautiful, like the woman who painted it. She looked away, trying to hide the faint smile that curved her lips. That night, as she walked home through the quiet streets, her shoes splashing through puddles, she felt something unfamiliar stirring inside her. It was not certainty, not yet, but it was hope. Maybe, she thought, forgiveness was not a single moment. Maybe it was a series of small choices to see the good again. And this, perhaps, was her first. 2 weeks later, the Art and Flight exhibit was nearly complete. Murals covered the walls of the Crossair atrium, and the once sterile space now pulsed with color and warmth. Visitors stopped in the hallways to take photos. Even the most reserved executives seemed lighter as they passed through. Maya watched it all quietly, proud yet uneasy. The night before the official unveiling, she stayed late to finalize the lighting. The empty building hummed softly, the kind of silence that always felt heavy before something important. She adjusted the final spotlight, then stepped back to admire the mural of wings she and Ethan had painted together. She smiled faintly. It had become more than art, it was a bridge between their worlds. But the next morning, that bridge began to shake. When Maya arrived at the office, she found Lily waiting by her desk, her face pale. Have you seen the news? Maya shook her head. Lily handed her a tablet. On the screen was an article with a headline that made her stomach drop. Crossair accused of using art initiative for publicity cover. Beneath it was a photograph of her and Ethan, laughing while painting the mural. The caption read, CEO exploits employee scandal for image rehabilitation. Her knees weakened. This is not true. Lily lowered her voice. I know, but the board is furious. They think he created the program just to repair his reputation after the gala incident. Someone leaked internal emails. Before Maya could respond, Ethan's assistant appeared. Mr. Cross needs to see you, now. She followed her through the corridor, her pulse racing. Inside the executive suite, Ethan stood near the window, phone pressed to his ear, his expression dark. He ended the call and turned toward her. You saw it, he said quietly. Yes, she replied. They are saying awful things. His jaw tightened. They will get worse before they get better. Someone inside the company is trying to push me out before the shareholders' meeting. Why involve me in it? She asked, her voice shaking. My name is in the article too. They are saying I helped you stage everything. Ethan's eyes softened. Maya, you know that is not true. I know, she said, but they do not. He took a step closer. If you want to distance yourself, I will understand. Say whatever you need to protect your name. Her throat tightened. You think I would abandon what we built because people are talking? He looked at her, searching her face. I do not want you to get hurt because of me. I already was, she said quietly, and I came back anyway. They stood in silence, the tension between them thick with unspoken truths. Then the door burst open. 2 members of the corporate board entered, their expressions cold. Mr. Cross, one said, until the investigation concludes, all public events are suspended. The Art in Flight program is shut down immediately. Maya's breath caught. You cannot... The man cut her off. Miss Collins, you are free to return to your original department. The company will handle the rest. When they left, the room felt hollow. Ethan turned back to the window, his reflection fractured against the glass. I am sorry, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I should have seen this coming. Maya stepped forward, placing her hand on the back of a chair. Do not give up, she said softly. You told me connection matters more than altitude. Prove it. He looked at her, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. Then we fight. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city, rolling low and heavy. Inside, the mural still glowed faintly under the dim lights, a quiet reminder that even in chaos, beauty could still hold its ground. The next few days unfolded like a storm. News channels replayed the same headline again and again. Every article twisted the story, painting Ethan as manipulative and Maya as naive. The comments online were cruel, questioning her integrity, her art, and even her worth. She stopped reading them after the second day, but the words clung to her like smoke. When she returned to the office to collect her things, the lobby was nearly empty. The once vibrant murals now stood in silence. The bright colors dimmed under the weight of uncertainty. She paused in front of the wings they had painted together. Even now, despite everything, the image still shimmered with hope. Maya, she turned. Ethan stood by the staircase, his tie loosened, exhaustion in every line of his face. He looked as if he had not slept in days. "You should not be here," she said quietly. "I could say the same about you," he replied. "The board has suspended me until further notice. They think shutting down the program will calm investors." Her heart ached. "You are letting them destroy something good." "I am trying to save the company that keeps thousands of people employed," he said. "But the truth is, I do not care about headlines anymore. I care about this, what we started." He pulled a folder from his briefcase and handed it to her. Inside was a press statement bearing his signature. It read, "The Art in Flight Initiative was created by artist Maya Collins. I was only a supporter, not the architect. The program deserves to live beyond my leadership." She looked up sharply. "You are taking the blame." "I am taking responsibility," he said. "You once told me mistakes can become beginnings. Let this be mine." Tears stung her eyes. "Ethan, they will tear you apart for this." "Then let them," he said simply. "If one person sees what you created and feels less alone, it will be worth it." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the lights, the faint echo of rain outside it all blurred into stillness. Finally, Maya took a deep breath. "If you do this, I will stand with you. Not as your employee, not as your mistake, but as your partner." Ethan's eyes met hers, steady and full. "Then we stand together." The next morning, the press gathered in the atrium. Cameras flashed as Ethan stepped to the podium, his voice firm and calm. He spoke about transparency, about art as connection, about how true innovation began with empathy, not ego. When he finished, he invited Maya to speak. Her hands trembled as she took the microphone. "When I started painting these walls," she said, "I thought I was decorating a company. But what I really painted was the story of learning to see again, to see people, not titles, purpose, not power." The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, applause spread through the room. That night, news outlets changed their tone. Words like authentic, brave, and transformative began to appear. Crosshair's stock rose again. But for once, that did not matter to either of them. After the press left, the building was quiet once more. Ethan and Maya stood before the mural of wings, now illuminated under the full light of evening. He turned to her. "You once said mistakes can be beginnings," he murmured. "Maybe this one was ours." She smiled faintly. "Maybe it still is." "Oh." Outside, the rain finally stopped. The city lights shimmered against the wet streets, reflecting the colors of the mural through the glass. Inside, the silence felt peaceful, not empty. For the first time in a long while, both of them believed that beauty could rise from broken things. A full year later, spring returned to the city. The air smelled of new rain and blooming magnolia. A large banner hung above the renovated Crosshair Gallery, reading, "The Light Between Terminals, 1-Year Anniversary Exhibition." People from across the country filled the hall, their voices bright with excitement. Cameras flashed as reporters whispered about how a once scandalized project had become a global movement. Maya stood near the entrance, her dress a soft shade of cream, her sketchbook tucked under one arm. The gallery glowed with murals and sculptures created by dozens of artists who had joined the Art in Flight initiative. Each piece carried the same message, hope through connection. Lily appeared beside her with a grin. "You realize you started all this, right?" Maya laughed lightly. "I think we all did." "Still," Lily said, "you should be proud. Even the most cynical investors are quoting your speech about purpose and power." Before Maya could answer, a familiar voice spoke behind her. "And some of us quote it daily." She turned. Ethan stood a few feet away, dressed simply in a dark suit. No tie this time. His eyes were warm, steady, filled with the calm that had once unnerved her and now grounded her. "You made it," she said. "I would not have missed this for the world," he replied. They walked together through the gallery, stopping before the original mural of wings. It had been carefully restored, the colors deeper, the brushstrokes preserved. Beneath it, a small plaque read, "Created by Maya Collins and Ethan Cross, dedicated to everyone who has ever turned a mistake into a beginning." Maya traced the edge of the plaque with her fingertips. "Do you ever think about that day at the airport?" she asked softly. "Every day," he said. "It reminds me that sometimes the best moments begin with the worst timing." She smiled. "I still cannot believe I ordered you to carry my luggage." "I'm glad you did," he said, his voice low. "It changed everything." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small, worn object. It was the same sketchbook she had once lost, the first one he had found in the car a year ago. Between its pages lay a folded note. She unfolded it carefully. It was the original message he had written. "Keep creating. Inspiration has a strange way of finding us." Tears filled her eyes. "You kept this?" "I kept all of it," he said. "The art, the lessons, and the woman who taught me to see differently." He took a deep breath. "Maya, I have spent my life building things that fly, but you taught me that what truly matters is what keeps us grounded. Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that to you?" The words hung in the air, tender and steady. She smiled through her tears. "You already have." He stepped closer, and the crowd around them faded into quiet. For a heartbeat, it was just the two of them standing beneath the painted wings that had carried their story through storm and light. Outside, a plane passed overhead, its reflection gliding across the glass wall of the gallery. Maya looked up, her fingers entwined with his. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. "It sounds like a beginning." Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "No," he said, smiling. "It sounds like forever." The camera lights flashed once more, catching the two of them standing in front of the mural, the same place their story had almost ended. And now, the place where it truly began. The wings behind them shimmered under the golden light, as if they were lifting the two of them toward everything still waiting ahead.